Welcome to the Innovation Calling podcast,
where we connect creators for the next big thing. We're your hosts, Aaron Greger
and Syya Tornrat.
Hey, it's Aaron Greger.
And it's Syya Tornrat.
And we have another great episode of Innovation Calling. We have our very unofficial Innovation Council podcast, whatever it is. We gathered, we drank. Well, I didn't drink, everybody else drank, but we ate and we talked all things innovation. So we hope you enjoy this episode. But before we get into it, we have a big event in July that hopefully you will be coming to. Syya, who's joining us?
July 10th, we've got Gwen Throckmorton, and she is scheduled from Facebook to join us. You know, that little social media site. Fascinating story. Again, all of our executive ladies that we have join us, but Gwen's particularly exciting. So yeah, she works at Facebook, but there's a lot more to it than just that. So hopefully you guys sign up and go to our website, innovationcalling.com.
And until then, here is another episode of our very unofficial Innovation Council. Hope you enjoy it. All right, well, welcome to another episode of Innovation Calling. I'm Aaron Greger.
And I'm Syya Tornrat.
All right, and we're back for another roundtable. It is June. We have the full crew back again. I know our last one was a little more subdued. So let's go around and introduce everyone, starting with...
Leslie Flores, CEO and founder of Moments by Design.
Kurt Kelly, CEO of Accelerated Technology Consulting.
Adam, CTO of StatusJet.
Raza, SDM SAP, Delivery Executive.
Syya, you've got the topics. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so I just saw this one like 2 seconds ago, and I'm absolutely fascinated. So how many of you guys like Salvador Dali?
Yeah, Noah's paintings.
Right, his artwork. He's also known as being a bit of an eccentric, as most artists tend to be, free-spirited kind of guy. Well, at the Dali Museum out in St. Petersburg, Florida, they basically created this deep fake video of him taking selfies with the guests as they go into the museum. So what they did is they took footage of him over the years, superimposed those facial movements on an actor, real life actor. And so they've actually used his quotes and his words, and literally it's a photo booth, but it's deep fake technology, which is absolutely fascinating.
Isn't that copyright infringement though?
It's his museum.
Oh, it's his museum. Sorry, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, so the Salvador Dali Museum out in Florida. But this technology frightens me, because you think about all the potential fake videos that go out there, that, you know, fake news and people in social media who don't bother to research but love to comment on social media. It could literally change the course of an election based on the quality of these videos.
Well, so that was a Marketplace Tech report a couple weeks ago, where they're starting. There's a lab that will send out a test, and they'll start testing their employees to figure out if you can tell if it's a real person or a CG developed person. And so people were having, when they first took the test, before they trained them, they would get 30% of the people right. And then after the test, they would get about 80% of the people right, to see if they were real or fake, and if the picture was faked or not. So this goes back to fake news and how we're supposed to trust pictures, but now machine learning is developing pictures that are better than what we know to be real. And so we don't know if what we're seeing is real.
So I read an article this other day, and it had pictures of like 20 different individuals, and then the headline said, "Not one person is real." Right. And you looked at these images, and it is so amazing, the quality, the details, the nuances of like the expression in the eyes, the movement. It's like that uncanny valley, right? It's creepy. It creeps me out to know that, you know, the things that we're looking at are basically really good cartoons, in essence, right? I mean, Kurt, what are your thoughts around that? Us being Gen Xers here, and our security-focused mind, and we hate the world and all that good stuff. What do you think about this?
Well, let me move my tinfoil hat. Okay. So, no, I think you're spot on, and I think that one of the concerns that I have, actually back to what Jax was saying, you know, we talked about this, different use cases for technologies that are coming out, and one of the things that we talked about, you know, and I say we, just different groups that we talked about, was how do you verify, authenticate, or how do you verify the authenticity of something at the time it's created? And so this goes all the way back to, keys passing back and forth between cameras to video cameras and things like that, to where every time you take a picture with your phone, obviously there's something that's embedded from metadata perspective. So you know if it's something real or something not. And so how do you take all these different technologies and be able to tell if something was created from that technology or if something was created from a software platform, like a machine learning, like what you're talking about, the deep embedded images like that. But I think that it's always going to come back to, we've got to find out at the point of the creation or generation of that item, what was real and what was not.
No, here's something really interesting. So for a long time, I've been posting photos for various different reasons online. One of the common practices that I do is I instantly strip all metadata out of my photos. And and that goes back to the reason I do that. It's a security reason. I don't want people to know where I took that photo or what I was doing with that photo. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I'm also protecting myself when I take out the metadata, but at the same time I have to leave some sort of metadata in there to keep it so it's authenticated or notarized or whatever you want to call it. And so we have to come up with a better system that's not maybe metadata, but it's notary data.
Agree. So it's almost like a watermark on an image, but the digital watermark. And I agree wholeheartedly on that. And I think what I'm saying is, at the time that it's created, there's also a way for you to do a key exchange. So it's anonymized data. So I'm not giving you geographical information or user information, but it literally is just the fact that I'm authenticating the fact that this was actually taken.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Agree.
I'm going to put a positive spin on it, because
don't ruin it.
People say tech will take away jobs. I see more jobs being created
100%.
because the more weak links are out there, you need more control people or authenticators or people who understand what Adam and Kurt just said to help them with those things, to identify what is fake, what is real, and to put in control perspectives around it. So whenever there's more tech moving towards something that is advantageous or futuristic, you need a certain control structure around it as well. So there's two sides to the coin, and I think the control aspect is important, but it also creates jobs and creates a structure around things.
So can I add one more thing really quick?
Go for
so
it.
Naval, I was listening to the interview with Naval and Joe Rogan the other day. And one of the things that Naval was talking about is that we're all concerned about all these job losses. And he said, and this was so profound that somebody actually said this, and is someone of notoriety that actually knows what they're talking about. But he talks about, we're fighting over this as though there are infinite jobs. There's a finite number. I mean, as though we have a finite number of jobs. Sorry. There's an infinite number of jobs. And, think about what we were just discussing earlier about the Instagram pictures.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that could potentially been a job? Who would have thought professional, online sports is a job, right? And so to your point, I 100% agree with you, Raza, because it's like there's an infinite number of jobs. We just don't know what they're going to be yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just, as long as you're, like, to your point, if you're constantly learning, there's always opportunity out there. It just may not be COBOL coding.
Yeah.
But there's going to be... Don't laugh at COBOL.
Or Fortran. Come on.
Trust me.
You bring your SAP butt in here and make fun of COBOL.
Well, I'll tell you this. Before SAP, I was PwC 10 years, okay? And I worked in 8 different regions of the world. COBOL was a headache. A massive one, especially when it came to core banking systems, and you had to pass through at least 2 million transactions a day on that language base, and you couldn't find coders for it. So
because they all died.
They knew better. I could have pulled out my COBOL hat.
I have that personal pain point when I know about that.
It's been a while.
Okay, I'm glad that we're laughing, because literally, I think me starting off with deep fake, everyone got weirded out. I was just gonna say more lightheartedly, it's associated. The tendency of deep fake videos is often associated with fake celebrity porn. That's all. That was my funny.
I did not associate that.
What?
Is that a Syya thing? Or?
Syya,
We've learned something. Where are we going with that?
Wait. That's
We've either learned something really funny or deeply dangerous about it.
A little bit of both.
Wait, it's Rule 32 on the internet, right? It's like everything that can be turned into porn is turned
into porn. Absolutely. Yeah. No. And by the way, okay, proof. Look, it's written on an article by The Verge. Okay, so let's make fun of that writer, not Syya.
We might want to check the metadata on that and whether it leads back to
Syya.
Wait, he's going into fake news.
Wait. Related to that, though, kind of, I know I'm going down a dangerous rabbit hole, but Tumblr is getting in trouble because of the whole porn mess and everybody they're cutting down on porn. Do you see who's looking at buying Tumblr?
No.
Pornhub.com?
Yes.
Are you kidding? I think we just learned a little something about Raza.
I was going to say when I had her got porn, but
Damn. That was a great shot in the dark.
Didn't know. Good job. So
I'm well read.
I'm sure you are.
is that the NDA we all had to sign before the recording?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, that's pretty funny. But then again, porn is attributed to the hyper growth of the internet anyway, right? I mean,
Well, all technology in general. I mean, it's what divided the VHS. No, VHS and beta was determined because of porn.
Really?
Blu-ray HD disc determined because of porn. Various other things are all DRM was because of porn. There is a lot of stuff because of porn.
streaming. I mean, just getting the bandwidth out.
We seem to have resident experts. Great.
Well, and AVN.
Introduction titles.
AVN was always coincided with CES for the longest time.
It still is.
No, it's
They separated them?
Oh,
They
they finally
separated them a
did?
little bit more than they are, but yeah.
Because normally, all my finance guys, I mean, that was the whole big thing. You go down to CES in Vegas, and then you get to see everybody in the pool.
That could not be recreated.
Cannot
I use my real
see.
title
Syya just
for
kind
this
of pushed
podcast.
Leslie's face towards the mic, and it did not resemble a very good thing. Sorry.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
just perfection right there.
We need to start a camp show with this maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Live cams.
We'll be streaming live next time.
Live cams. Yet another product of the porn, live cams. Yeah. On that note, I think we're pretty
How
much
do you top this?
I don't know. I think we're done. I think that was a great episode. Thank you guys, everyone.
June's taping done.
Yeah, we are so now on the explicit side of things. I think on iTunes, right?
Well, no. I mean, we
It's
can
a
say
joke.
porn. Yeah.
The joke.
Okay. 'Cause I'm just thinking, could my kids listen to this in the backseat?
Oh, because I'm sure they fully understand. Hey,
Anyway,
Mom, what's
good
that
try.
mean when you hit
Yeah.
someone in the back of the head towards the mic with their mouth open?
Why is that funny?
All right, back on task. So on that note, we've got that whole deepfake video, and it uses a lot of artificial intelligence to pull all that data together in a way that, as you said, there's a discussion how AI, people are arguing it's taking away jobs. I just had this article up here that was talking about AI is replacing, quote, first jobs. So they're saying some 49% of workers aged 16 to 24 are at risk of losing their jobs to AI. This is according to Brookings Institution.
But this is like robots taking over basic jobs in a
Thank you.
Yeah, we're
line.
talking
You know
about
what I
the
mean?
ordering
Exactly.
that at McDonald's.
That's
where,
right.
I don't need to talk to the
That's
cashier
right.
anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I see that as a smart thing to
That's
do.
a positive.
Like,
That's
I
right.
see it as a really smart thing to do. And if
Yes.
I'm a franchise owner, I want that tech.
Make our society smarter. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
No worries. That's all cool. So, however, on the positive note again, but there needs to be a structure supported by government because not everyone can kind of afford to keep up with that tech and educate themselves from that perspective.
No, so that's a problem, right? So your point taken as far as the government is retraining people. They are offering credits. Nobody knows to take advantage of them
it
because
can
they're
definitely
not.
be
Are
significantly
you guys
improved.
Democrats?
I don't have a voting right, so I'm neither.
I'm kidding.
Hey, I do have a voting right, and I'm neither.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's funny that was just perfect timing. I was like, what? No, so what's funny is they're just not advertising that. There are lots of things. And the other thing is about the robotic piece it's fascinating is there was a guy that, again, NPR, they interviewed a guy out in West Virginia who was working on a factory line. His job was replaced by robots. But now his second job is repairing the robots. So the robots took away his job, but now he's repairing the robots that keep on breaking that took away his job. So there's that portion of it that they are retraining him for it. I'm more fascinated by greenhouse emissions. It takes more greenhouse emissions to train a AI robot because the data center being used and all the energy being used to train the AI function or the AI algorithm than it is for a lot of other things. So that's a huge issue too, is it's causing a lot of environmental damage.
Oh, that's interesting.
There has been talk of using AI to actually negate and balance out the environmental damage that we're doing. Has anyone read up on that? So depends how, again.
Obvious.
That is not the question you want to ask.
Wait a
us,
second.
okay?
Wait,
Who
the
invited
PhD
this guest, this new SAP guest?
let the
Kicking you off
PhD
the group.
speak.
I will put in a disclaimer here. I am representing myself, not the company. Otherwise, I might lose my job.
No.
My opinions are independent and individual only. Thank you.
And your name is Emily. It's okay.
Well, you have it all the
I
time.
was going
right?
to go with Joshua, but sure.
Okay, whatever works. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this last time, right? I mean, you have AI. It's been throughout history, right? You got the printing press. You got automated, interchangeable parts. I mean, no one's all of a sudden had this huge collapse of the American economy. Finds new ways to employ people and do things. Just like I said, it goes into care services, it goes into robot repair, it goes into drone automation, traffic control, all things that we didn't do before now have a role. And to your point, the automation and the information, big data. We have a friend, right, that works and does the automation of crop fields now, right? Stuff that didn't exist before. Now you can look at your moisture levels get the most out of your crop production for American farmers. All that type of stuff, right? I mean, so sure, there's always negatives and positives. But if you look at the grand sum, right, I mean, this is just science, right? I mean, there's only so much energy in the world, in the universe. It's not going anywhere, so it's going to come one way or the other.
Ooh, entropy. I like.
Well, I always look at Michael, the guy who did RPA stuff, and he told the story about a guy who, like, his core job was every day he checked a website to see if something went down. I mean, it's just like the most boring job in the world. Like, you just go to work, you click a website, you'd see if something was down, and that was it. Like, how easily that can be automated. And if that's your life, I know some people who are phoning it in and they're like, all right, that's an easy job. But it's also like, don't you want to do something more fulfilling than just come in, look at a website, go home? But maybe, I don't know.
I mean, there are those individuals that love it.
They're totally cool with it.
Yeah, I know when I was working at USAA, there was actually, this was a crazy story. MIT degree, okay, so not an easy school. And this guy was going around delivering the mail. He had done all the big jobs and everything and realized that he absolutely hated the stress and just living that life and the craziness that it created. And he was like, now I just go and I push the mail cart and give people their mail and I'm totally happy. MIT degree, handing out mail.
And
Yeah, that's actually common. There's like a ton of MIT people who are like welders, but that's a whole other thing. It's that trade jobs are missing, but we can go
Yeah.
into that.
Well, to be honest, that people factor, that personalization factor is always going to be there for unique jobs and unique individuals, even no matter the simpler the job or whatever it is. So AI, automation, all of that will replace to a certain extent, but it's also going to create competition as those jobs lessen or people move their focus to other jobs. The people who are really good at that human impressionable factor will definitely take the higher or upper echelon of those jobs going forward. So yeah, I was going to kind of gel into the fact that AI is definitely potentially going to hopefully solve one of the major problems that we're facing as a race overall, humankind as a whole, which is overpopulation and resource stringency. So space travel, particle physics, copularities, or issues that we're facing, as well as quantum mechanics that the human brain so far has not been able to solve to the extent that greater space travel becomes foreseeable in the near future.
So TJ could actually become a real life Jedi.
TJ right now acts like, this is my son. He's like Napoleon Dynamite is what he acts like. So, I mean, the quantum, I love the kid. Oh my God.
Look, one of my courses at MIT, the first thing the professor pulled out was how you make a lightsaber. And then he said, okay, it's not really going to happen yet, but here's how you can do it when we get there. And I was like, when does that happen?
And this whole advent of the job change cycle may also lead to more smarter, more intellectual human beings, because they're going to need to get more involved from a technical perspective, from a greater thinking perspective. Humans will have more time for strategic thinking as opposed to mundane, normal jobs and thinking.
Yes.
Well, and then
Will
I think
they
you
use
kind of
it,
got
though,
it.
or will all our brain cells be dead because of Instagram photos?
Well,
by
that's
that
true.
point?
By the
Not
way, I
if
need
you
to-
take it off your phone.
By the way, I need you to go on Instagram and like all my pictures. Okay?
That's the classic argument, though. You take a knife to cut vegetables, cut fruits, whatever, or you take that knife to stab someone.
Yeah.
What do you do with it? It's
Right.
What's totally up to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, but then you've got Elon Musk right now already trying to, privatize space travel, right? Which, I mean, SpaceX is getting there. Actually, they just announced that now you're going to be able to go to the International Space Station and they're going to basically rent it out as a hotel. $35,000 a night is the rate. So if you guys just want to go spend a night at the ISS.
Hang on, but
Well, isn't Necker Island like 30 grand? So,
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
see,
you
so
know, might
totally.
as
Well, yeah. Now, granted, the ticket to get there is going to cost you about $50 million. So
you go.
$35,000
So-
a
How
night,
does
$50
that
million
work,
ticket.
though? Because, like,
Is there a share service with that? No. I'm just-
well, I mean, astronauts go through such a psychological test. Like, how
Yeah.
does it work for privatizing that? Like,
So-
can you just send anybody, or at some point, because that is like, that is not just a plane ride across Europe, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happening. So how can they just pick anybody? As long as you have enough money, how do you know you're going to do well with that?
Well, and I mean, that's the thing. I mean, physically, let's face it, astronauts go through a lot
Yeah.
of physical training. There's a lot of mental
psychological.
mental and psychological, test and everything to figure out, are you capable of doing this? And now, I mean, if you've got the bill, the money to pay for it, are they just going to say, sure, go ahead and be damned with all the physical and the psychological testing?
I'm going to take a page out of a movie here, cryogenic freezing.
There you go.
Well, there's that, but also
maybe.
one of the space companies also shut down just this last week.
Oh, which one?
Not SpaceX, whatever the other one is.
Was it Peter Diamandis?
Was there another one?
There may as well not be, yeah.
Well, I
that
thought
one.
Virgin was doing something, weren't they? Or
No, it's not Richard Branson or any of those. It's the one that had the giant plane that was like the double two fuselage planes. That had
Oh, the
those.
new V? The plane?
No, I thought that was still going.
No,
The
they
new
just
V?
No,
shut
they
it down.
just grounded it last week.
They were supposed to, they just announced it too, like the new V's.
Exactly.
Now, granted, it was supposed to have issues with banking and everything, so they
Yep.
weren't thinking that it was going to, because the prototype was supposed to come out, I think, Q3, Q4 this year.
Right, so the founder passed away, and the rest of the family didn't want to keep it going, and so they just shut down the entire
That's crazy.
space launch vehicle, everything else. So this giant plane that would launch a different type of different type of spacecraft would.
But I thought that was meant not as a spacecraft, but as an actual, like, instead of using 737s anymore, you would use this, and it was
that
supposed to
meant as
reduce.
a launch vehicle.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
supposed to reduce, I think, 30% or something like that on the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, correct, and then all of that, but they just shut it down.
But somebody
They
will
just-
buy that,
Nuts.
right? Like,
No,
they
just killed it
Well,
all and like
to be-
mothballed it all.
To be honest,
Wow.
that sounds more like an internal family politics versus who gets what issue rather than tech not surviving issue. If that
Agreed.
idea was
100%,
out there,
yeah.
someone
Yeah.
else will replicate it or
Yeah.
improve upon it
Exactly.
eventually.
Yeah.
Right. So this is like one of those situations where like whoever the main funding person was a famous tech person. They were related to Microsoft
Yeah.
or something.
Well, and
like
didn't
that.
they just do like another round? I thought they had just gotten a round of funding or something too.
No, it was always privately funded from the guy who had originally started Microsoft. It wasn't Ballmer, but it was like related to that whole
Okay.
situation.
And that's very typical of niche ideas at the forefront of innovation, that if the main driver kind of passes away or
Idea
heads
just
off,
dies.
then the idea dies. But then again, in this day and age, I've also seen those ideas come up as a reprise and a much improved format. So that's probably the advantage of being in this tech age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but there's that, and also I can always flip it back to there's naked ladies on Necker Island, and also not so much naked ladies on this space station.
Did we just go from space station, space travel, launch
Bro, you
vehicles
got
to
something on your
naked
mind?
ladies?
Naked ladies. We
Hot.
And tying it back to the earlier.
I don't know where to
I
go
don't know
from here.
how- yeah.
I don't know how to bridge this one here.
We're not,
That's
yeah.
it.
Now
That's
we're
a
lost to
long-
where to go from naked ladies.
Yeah, I,
Restart.
it always comes back to porn.
this should be a sponsored. So on that, we're
no, they shouldn't be.
G up this talk here, peoples. Is Disneyland has opened up Star Wars Land,
Yes.
and let's talk about that.
I'm going in September.
Are you really? You are confirmed.
Well, we haven't bought the ticket. We're going though.
Yeah.
Probably should buy the tickets, but yeah, I've heard it's really, really cool. Like you are submersed in Star Wars.
So
to make a trip out.
my Disney friends are taking pictures in front of the ship.
Really?
Millennium
we,
Falcon?
We had this conversation last time.
We didn't. We talked about the movie. That's what we talked about last time.
Wait. Aaron's
Yeah.
serious question is JJ ready to tell TJ everything and pass on his Jedi powers?
No, because the kids now. So there's this backstory. As a joke, I told the kids when they were very little that Daddy used to work at Star Wars. And I thought they'd forget it, but they clung to it. It was supposed to be a joke, so they like clung to it. And TJ actually got into a fight with a kid at kindergarten because she was trying to tell him that Star Wars wasn't real. Not like a punching fight, but like this. And she was trying to tell him, and he's like, "It is too real. My daddy worked there." I would be sitting around at the dinner table, and they'd be like, "Daddy, what was Luke Skywalker like?" So I told them, I said, Mommy kind of fibbed a little bit. Like, I didn't want to come out that I'd 100% lied. And I said, there's been a misunderstanding. When we say Daddy worked at Star Wars, he worked at the Disneyland version of Star Wars. So they've kind of backed it off. So, yes. So they're going to go see where Daddy once worked.
That just opened.
That the place was just invented.
Yeah.
Cool. Daddy already solved the quantum mechanics problem. He time traveled.
I'm hoping they don't put too much together, but yes, they will be there.
And Syya didn't help the cause.
No, so Syya and Sean latch onto this, and Syya, what do you do when the kids are like obsessed that Star Wars is real? Syya,
we happen to be vacationing in Hawaii, and we went to Mount Haleakala on Oahu. No, not Oahu, Maui. And it's 10,000 feet up in the air, right? So you have to wear winter clothes. You have to wear ski jackets.
Right.
Well, they tell everyone as you go up the mountain, you better have freaking ski clothes. Don't be showing up in your pajamas or bathing suits and flip-flops, right? Well, you see this cloud layer. It's like sun setting. And you see this guy, like, with a blanket wrapped around him, and he's got that shaggy blonde hair. He looks exactly like Luke Skywalker, and then with the cloud layer around him and him on the rock, my boyfriend took pictures of him. And so we showed it and said, hey, look, we met Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. So they thought this like whole thing was real. I mean, it was like,
oh no, yeah. Well, I didn't get the memo of like, we just thought, carry on with the kids' family.
You guys got the memo. Don't lie. You're like, let's add fuel to this fire.
She's like, this is way more fun.
This is my prerogative as a friend, and I had a lot of fun. And guess what? That thing showed up on Facebook and said, 3 years ago, you went to this. You shared this memory, and I looked at it. I'm like, hey, Aaron.
It was a pretty awesome picture, though.
Yeah, it was a pretty awesome picture. But yeah,
but she looked at me because I was talking to her son. I'm like, hey, Aaron, did you see? She's like, and every parent, if you guys obviously have mothers, the big eye look, the shut up face. It was really funny. So yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to see it in real life. We're gonna get to see where Daddy once worked.
yes, that is awesome. Well,
and the next trip's probably gonna be to Maui.
It is actually. It really is. We just bought tickets.
To go meet Luke Skywalker. What are you gonna do when they see the movie and find out that Luke dies?
They've seen the movies, but they don't put it all together because like they would think they'd see Darth Vader die, and then they would think Darth Vader. So like, I mean, we're talking little kids here, but they were, and even like then they would ask if Princess Leia died, and I said, well, the actress that plays Princess Leia died, and my son refused to hear that. He's like, no, she's not dead yet. I just saw her in a movie. I'm like, well, the actress that plays Princess Leia did die. Well, she's not dead. I saw her. And so it was a very difficult conversation, but yeah.
So that's funny. Okay, so I wasn't going to talk about it, but might as well. Talking about how Disney's using a lot of AI actually to help do the traffic flow and trying to maximize people's time and reach. And there's a lot of science that goes around park distribution.
What's the number?
There's another project that is sort of way old and it's public now. It's called Project Halo, and it was even more accurate than military GPS that we were developing, which was roughly a 3-foot radius. So you could go and figure out which oven was broken. So like they obviously in each restaurant they feed thousands of people, so they have multiple ovens cooking certain foods or whatever it is. So you could tell which oven was broken and then only get the repair order and the warranty status for that particular oven when you're fixing it.
Wow.
So as a worker, you're not allowed to say, "Oh yeah, I fixed the ride," because I'm too lazy to walk over there and say it's fixed. You're not allowed to check off the work order until you walked up to the ride and say, "Yeah, I checked it off." Now, if that's the case, though, now the worker's liable for like, "Why didn't you fix it? You were right there." So now it becomes a safety issue as well. And so that was the other fascinating part is they're advancing their tech a lot farther than just the AI for traffic flow or anything else like that. It now becomes a safety function as well, which is really cool.
That is interesting.
You know what I'd love to see? AI solve the traffic problem.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a people person problem.
Well, you don't give people the driving control.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're kind of working on it. I mean, you see a lot of the driverless cars right now. I mean, they're still having some issues, obviously, but I mean...
driverless and efficient public transport, because there's a lot of issues with the way public transport is handled.
Yep.
If that can be improved, I mean, driverless cars can be phase 2.
Yeah, because it's that last mile kind of
But
situation.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with public transportation. What I'm not okay with is you taking away my driving rights.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the part that I struggle with because it's like that's an enjoyment to me and to you as well. We love to drive, right? So it's just like,
I'm not giving up a car.
It's really what I think of is Will Smith in iRobot. Thank you. Because he goes back
to changed back and forth.
Yeah, he gets in trouble for manual mode, and it's like, dude, I would get in trouble for that all the time.
Especially if that road is open and I can just rip and roar.
And with your driving, yes.
All of us at this table, I think.
Well,
my car is a boat. Okay, you don't be whipping and that thing. I mean, if I want to cut someone off, I'm going to put myself in that pit maneuver. If I cut people off.
Have you not seen what I drive?
Is it a literal boat?
It is a boat.
It does have a really great back massage.
I was going to say she's getting a massage.
It does have a really every time I get in her car, she turns on the back massager, and I mean it is nice. I'm gonna get that.
I had to get a bigger car, because I like sedans. I'm not an SUV person, and my boyfriend and his family, they're all like 6'5" and like up, and they're huge people. They're just big people. So we had to get a back seat that they didn't look like
struggling to fit in.
Yeah,
going back to your Disney park AI stuff, though, we've been there to Disney several times, and the best part about it is
happiest place.
It's not it's a great place, all that type of stuff. The staff there is amazing, but the thing I love the most about any of those parks is the fact that I can get on a ride quickly. They got Fast Pass. They have all these, I guess, convenience, boosters there that make the park enjoyable all the time. Even when I'm walking between rides, there's something to do, because I remember we did it a bunch of times. I went to like Six Flags, and I wanted to like pull my eyes out because I was in one ride for like 4 hours of a line. I'm like, I could have run like 20 things at Disney, and the theme parks here are terrible.
No, and it's funny. Well, I would agree with that. So I would say, the most fascinating thing I realized is, and I just got back from England, and I was fascinated by the fact that I went through some old, phenomenal, public. We went to King Louis XIV's palace, right?
Oh,
the amount of people there, it was just not even enjoyable. It was just ridiculously overloaded.
Versailles.
Yeah.
Versailles.
I like Versailles. That is also my happy place.
And then King Louis XIV's palace.
Wrong country.
Completely lost it.
No, it's wrong country, but thank you for
You take the train, you're all
we
good.
took the train under we took the tunnel and everything. It was a very truncated trip, but nonetheless, it's funny is to your point, the same amount of people that were going through Versailles, that same tech could easily be applied to Versailles as they have in Disney, and they haven't done so yet. But that's the thing is Disney sees, if not a tenfold more people in the same concentrated square footprint, and they've figured it out.
Yeah. And just think of how much more money they're making by not having you stand in line for 4 hours. Yeah. You're getting more merchandise. I mean, you're getting your kids walking past all your merchandise. They need that.
I'm buying that funnel cake.
That food system is amazing.
Yeah.
Put on the wristband. Just
boom,
I mean,
like
ROI.
You don't even think about it.
Day on something like that.
Actually, it's a very, very old stat. Back in the day when I used to work there, a few moon cycles ago, I just realized how long it's been. And it's very frightening to think about that. But the stat was Disneyland Park, and I could probably have to check it. So fact check me, people. Is they recovered all their overhead by 11 a.m.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That is crazy. Because rope drops at 9? right? Like Road Dogg's like
I
at
think it's
9.
8. Yeah, something like that.
8 or 9. I mean, so within a few hours, you've already completely.
That is supreme.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
Given that they throw away like I don't know how much fireworks every night.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
the
Fireworks are freaking amazing, though.
Oh yeah,
All right, next vacation, Disney, here I come.
Yeah,
the best.
you can come with us in September.
I still have friends there, so let me know, and we will not get connections together. So, on that note, well, so going back to the whole AI and
Can I stop you though? Do we know the numbers of that first opening week? Did they publish those at all? I was just curious.
I don't know. Give me
Okay.
2 seconds.
Not
I will
important. I
find
was
it.
just curious if you had it.
Well, okay. There's something in my eye. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know if you sound distracted, but it
All
really
right.
painfully
We
hurts
can
me
go
right
next
now.
topic.
And
Yeah.
interestingly so, just to as a layover from that, if Disney's so good with tech and future possibilities, how's their stock doing? A, B, how many
Stock is decent.
future tech companies does Disney actually have rights or investments in? Because
That is an unknown thing. And here's another weird. I was telling these guys.
that is
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
something to look into.
Well, no. Here's the other unknown weird thing: is a lot of things that Disney develops, it spins out, and people don't even realize it's spun out. So there's this random esoteric YouTuber that I follow called Technology Connection, and through him, I learned that the Houston Intercontinental Airport, Bush Intercontinental Airport, has a licensed monorail people mover from Disney, and it's one of 2 that exist outside of Disney. So the little thing that takes you from terminal to terminal is a licensed monorail system that Disney actually originally developed to take you around the park.
Dang.
Which is crazy, right?
While on the topic of Disney, so this may be a little jump, but interestingly so, and has anyone seen that infographic, the big 6 players that are now going to control all of your media content? Disney is one of them.
Yep.
So
Imagine the
Yeah.
power those guys are going to have.
It's
Or
insane.
already have, to be
I'm like, they're,
honest.
yeah.
So related to that, right? I read another article, and I was about to ask you that exact same question. So everybody's saying, I think at the time it was 185 days. It's a lot less now, and when this podcast actually gets published, it'll be a lot less then. Disney's coming out with its own streaming service. They've announced
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
said it, and everything else. And so everybody's saying 185 days for Netflix to go away. And I don't think Netflix is
No.
going to.
I don't see.
absolutely not.
I don't see that happening.
You know what? I have kids, and I will not buy Disney, and I will keep Netflix.
Yeah. Well, and Hulu just partnered with somebody too.
Was it DC?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was-
Because
it
I'm like,
was- it was
Hulu just
Warner
partnered with
Brothers.
somebody else. Yeah.
So but here's the thing: is Warner Brothers is owned by AT&T.
Yeah.
So yeah, it rolls back to AT&T. That's one of the major conglomerates that we were talking about. When it
Well,
comes
yeah, because they own Time Warner as well.
exactly.
So-
I'm sorry, Spectrum.
Well, so I wish I had my previous guest, Peggy Daw. She is amazing because she has built her entire career around streaming media and TV, the business of TV and media, and she knows it inside and out. And the whole fight for the whole content distributors and content creators and leveraging streaming technology, that's really shifting our path and the way our next generation actually gets entertainment now, right? I mean, we are all fairly experienced individuals and we're used to the TV, but I mean, look at all your children's.
How many times we mentioned YouTube in this conversation alone?
Right.
Yeah, right? I mean,
Spot on.
I actually saw someone on Facebook tell me, or one of my friends said, I can't believe this guy makes, like, I guess he's a super high paid Fortnite player guy. He's
Yeah.
like well known, famous.
So that's a thing, right? So I have 2 friends who literally do make their money off of Twitch. That's how the 100% of their living is done. They make it off of
Crazy.
Twitch. And then I also had another friend specifically ask me, "Hey, can you give me recommendations on what I should buy my kid? I want to make him a YouTuber." And so that's
Jeez.
so I'm
But that was really
My child's career path is a YouTube.
No, that's
But it's
40%
insane,
of
though.
kids nowadays.
Yeah.
That is their dream career. Is
Yeah.
a YouTuber.
Yep.
right, and that's the crazy part. So I'm like, yeah, I'll help you, build an Amazon wish list for this craziness. Sure, I mean, kid's smarter than that, and I'm not worried about the father kind of pushing him to a more interesting career, maybe a trade career. And that's the other thing that I know, like we're kind of lacking in.
Brings us full circle back to a couple of things. We started off with fake news. We started off with new and interesting career paths opening up, YouTube classic example, and another role to play. How do you segregate the fake news from the real news and keep things honest? a conglomerate, 6 major ones or 7 major ones, and then all sorts of news out there. So people aspiring to become YouTubers, they're going to throw any and all sorts of content
to try to get clicks.
out there. Yeah. So that's again, what is the future of regulation, or what is the future of true empathetic core news going to look like?
Well, you look at
how do I use the seashells then?
No, but did you hear
The
about
way
that?
you currently do, in a necklace.
That YouTuber that got arrested or he got thrown in jail. I can't remember the country because he, as a joke, put toothpaste in the middle of an Oreo cookie and gave it to a homeless guy. And he is actually got thrown in jail. I can't remember the country.
That's the least of it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things, right? So he was the recent one. This was in the last week, but then a couple weeks before that, or about 3 months ago, there was that mom that had the YouTuber kids that were famous.
Yeah.
That was abusing the kids. And so they were excited to have on the video, they were excited to have cookies because literally that was the first thing they were getting fed in multiple days.
that is crazy.
And there was a whole bunch of child abuse and everything else. And then not only those were adopted kids of hers, but then her one biological son who was significantly older, he was 15, somewhere. He was a teenager, but he wasn't old enough to be independent. Knew about the abuse and was not getting abused, and was also held at that standard and also charged as well because he was complicit in knowing that that was the case. Then there was also behind that last year, there was the mom and the kids who were fined because the mom put a bunch of those the expanding beads that go in water. I forgot what they're called, but they put a bunch of those
like dinosaur spongy ones?
No.
That's a bit of tech I have.
The little circle beads that you drop in the water and they expand and they look like jewels.
Bath bombs.
No, not bath bombs.
Those fizzle and go away.
They become like little
Anyway.
squishy beads. Anyways, I'll remember them in a second. But anyway, so they put a bunch of those in the back of a pickup truck bed and drove around the kids floating around the back of the pickup truck bed. And so that was endangering a child.
Yeah.
Because they're riding around in the back of the pickup truck bed.
I hope they arrest him.
And so they find the mom and endangered kids. But the thing is like on the flip side of it, in certain southern states, it's legal to ride in the back of a pickup truck. Even though it doesn't have seatbelts, it's legal to ride in the back of a pickup truck. So the fact that they were floating around back there and stuff like that, and they were busted in California. So there's multiple times and multiple instances where we're pushing this farther. And the other worry is, and this was a conversation yesterday I was having, or day before yesterday I was having with some other folks. Summer becomes a big issue, especially on YouTube. And YouTube is now trying to crack down on this as well, where the challenge is going to go bonkers, right? So they had the Kiki challenge where you were walking outside of a moving vehicle and trying to do a dance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was causing a lot of injuries. There was another one last year that was even more dangerous here. That one's a little weird, and that was more of an edge case. But the edge case was, how many kids does it take to take down an adult? And so these kids were going around in public transit areas, and they were literally like, there's one guy, and he was like literally this poor guy, and it was on YouTube. And this poor guy was just, run of the mill blue collar job, coming home on the light rail. And then all of a sudden these kids are filming him, and it was like one kid jumps on his back, and then the second kid jumps on the back, and then there's the third, and they were counting it out loud. They were like 1, 2, 3, and they beat the crap out of this old guy. It had nothing to do with anything. It was just this old guy that was getting beat
on his way home.
Yeah, on his way home. Was honest living, whatever, and didn't deserve it. And now there's another one where they're doing home invasions on YouTube. Like violent home invasions on YouTube.
Okay, so now then, does this put YouTube in the same arena as like Facebook, where now we're saying Facebook needs to crack down and be aware of like what that live video is streaming? So is YouTube now? I mean, to me, then the same regulations.
You need to take these videos down so these kids aren't.
YouTube is now.
No, they are. But I think
they are. And it was funny is related to that. What was funny is out of nowhere they didn't announce that they were going to, and it affected me from a client perspective, but. We were okay with it, but there was a night where I was live streaming a client of mine. So I was getting ready to video live stream these clients, and about 5 other folks, and these are companies that are directly connected to YouTube in the sense of they design the hardware to live stream to YouTube. YouTube didn't announce it, and they completely cut off their API and changed it. So we weren't allowed to live stream that night. We were scrambling to figure this out, and we weren't able to directly live stream to YouTube. And that was specifically because of a couple of suicides, not necessarily the violent acts like Christchurch, where that was on Facebook and that got propagated, but it was suicides, and that was another issue. And some other child abuse issues. And they're also not allowing comments and other things on
kids
videos.
Yeah.
So here's my interesting thing, though. I mean, because surely we can, because you're using API feeds, you're using everything, and we definitely know enough to be able to block hashtags. And YouTube has now, for a long time now, has enabled hashtags. So why would you not just, you know the hashtags from these different little things that are going on, these different challenges, why would you not just say anything with these hashtags cannot be posted?
But then you can easily, once you figure that out, you can easily,
they're going to continue to change
yeah.
it. So yes, your list is going to continue to have to grow, right?
But at what point does it stop hashtags, and then how do you get something else that they're starting to keyword and meta tag and metadata their stuff with? Yeah. So that becomes another bigger evolving problem.
That's where YouTube itself.
But again, that goes into that creation of a new job, though.
Exactly. Regulatory bodies control compliance, YouTube itself internally, and then externally validation checks. The audit mechanism around these has to be much stronger. Now,
but how fast can we keep up with it? Here's the other problem: they're uploading 500 hours per minute to YouTube.
You'd think this would be a perfect application. I was going to say this is like the perfect application of AI. And you err on the side of caution, where you don't put it up immediately. Then if a person has to actually review it, then have a person review it, then pop it up if it's okay. But this is the perfect application for AI.
Spot on.
I think we need to develop a company.
There you go. New company idea, guys.
Sorry, guys. Idea already taken.
Yeah. Bleep, 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 bleep. We're going to take that idea off. And we're going to develop that company that does that for YouTube.
Well, that's funny you should mention that. And
oh, no. She already copied it. While we were talking about it.
There was literally a article on The Verge. Sorry, kids. The headline is "The Secret Lives of Facebook Moderators."
I saw that. It's like, but those are real people.
Yeah, those are real people, but it's a company called Cognizant, and they're a professional services organization. But you can't tell me that
Cognizant, we're coming for you.
We're coming for you, peoples. Your peoples.
No, like these kids. I was reading an article. I don't know if it's the same article, but these people are like massively suicidal, or like they're depressed as hell because they're watching all these live videos on Facebook and seeing shit saying stuff, I gotta boot myself, but seeing stuff that people should not be seeing, and it's sad that's your job.
It's no different than when I was being trained as an AP photographer. There's stuff that we never published at all when we shot photos. There's videos and photos, and we did a whole thesis thing at one of the schools I went to. I have a friend of mine who was a photographer, and one of the most amazing photographers I ever met, that I think left the career because of some of the stuff he saw and shot. And I don't know if I can find those photos anymore, but I literally have photos of body parts being washed with a hose off of a bus. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was a suppressed story from the school I went to. And there's stuff that we just never published. And there's other photos of like dead bodies bumping against Humvees that we never published.
Sociologists and psychologists, there you go. Places like YouTube need to create a role where subliminal messaging and what it does to at a subconscious level. Yeah, I know. That needs to be controlled. They need to understand what it does so that they can stop this kind of content or control this kind of content. I don't even know if they have the understanding what this kind of stuff can do.
We do.
Are you working for YouTube?
No, in the sense of as a humanity and as a photojournalist kind of thing, we have that understanding. Like I said, we've developed a lot of those things that we get trained in certain ways from that perspective, and we could take that training to the other side of it. The other thing is there's been nets installed at factories because people are so depressed and they were jumping off the side of the factory, and they were putting these nets in to stop people from jumping off the side of a building. Stuff has been done in humanity, again, repeating humanity and repeating these things. It's just a matter of what the hell we're doing and how much we're scaling it, and this is a scaling problem.
Well, here's the other thing, though, right? We talk a lot about regulations and who's going to take content, who's going to police it, all that type of stuff. But at some point, as the consumers, we've got to be better armed against this ourselves, right? The people that are going to consume this media, I get it. It changes every generation. There's always something new to teach your kids or teach someone about why something is maybe not proper or different, and it's a challenge. And for those parents, it's a tough deal. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's going to be part of the role, right? To have to always adapt with that and learn from it, and that's a difficult thing to put on, the front end. But that's your better mitigation is building that base foundational structure that says, you know what, that doesn't feel right. I shouldn't be doing that, or it's not where I want to go. And you know what, it's a long-term game too, right? None of these are these quick fixes.
Wow, you just raised a very, very important point that could revolutionize the way education works. So this topic, this area, from a schooling perspective, from a class and education perspective, I mean, it's not just the parents' role. I think schools and the education system in general needs to adapt and hash out this issue. That could create an exact
course or something of that nature.
Yeah, that's a very, very important point.
Education overall has always needed to adapt, and we've never been able to adapt education fast enough, as fast as society's moved. And in certain cases, we seem to be moving faster than we can adapt.
Fast as American society has moved. Education systems around the world are much better than us. I always love there's this one quote from like this show, I think it was called The Newsroom, about someone asked why is America the greatest country in the world?
Yes.
If you haven't heard that, it's like the best 2 minutes I have ever heard in my life. And it's just you got to see it. Go find it. It's amazing. Jeff Bridges delivers this 2-minute rant that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard about America.
God. That whole show.
But that moment right there says, we're like some number ridiculously low in education and all these things, right? And so you're right. In America, we're not good enough at it. Yeah. And it's America. Why are we not good enough?
We're supposed to be the greatest country in the world, and I like that is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's literally the question that she poses.
This is not even at a university or secondary education level.
Yeah.
This is primary.
Yeah.
You need to reach out to the masses.
Exactly.
Well, and it's not just, again, going back to primary education. It's overall as a society, because also, we incarcerate people and we treat them not as a rehabilitation function. We don't rehabilitate people, and so that's also ever-evolving, growing problem that we have and we're creating also.
Well, but I mean, going on to so and I don't know if we want to dive into this, but I mean, our jail system, right? Look at the whole bonding issue, right? So people can't make bond, and so they just sit there. They're literally sitting in prison. They are not convicted of anything.
Right.
You are not convicted, but because you couldn't pay your bond, they are sitting there. And sometimes it's taking a year and a half for them to get a court date. And you're technically in the USA, you are innocent until proven guilty. So you literally have innocent people that are sitting in prison.
Didn't Jay-Z do a story about like a kid who stole a backpack or something ridiculous like that and ended up sitting in jail for a year and a half because no one could.
Complete insanity.
And then that's a recent story too, right? So you kind of build on that, right? So now if you're gone for a year, you've obviously lost your job or whatever that is.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Where is your life now at this point when you get out?
Right. And so now you've incurred that, and you've also maybe not had your car payment paid because of that, and all sorts of other stuff that piles on. So now you've all of a sudden created a member of society that's now left worse off for a situation they shouldn't have been in. And now even if you are, let's say, on the bad side, you're guilty, right? So now you don't even earn anything inside.
No, so you spent a year basically sitting in prison. You get maybe a 3-year term, and now it's 4 years.
Right. Well, there's not only that, right? So you've got 4 years. But then what happens when you get out, right? So you're trying to go to school, but you have no credit. You're trying to get an apartment, but you have no way to get an apartment. So now you're stuck in a situation that's all stacked against you, and you cannot be a productive member of society.
Yeah.
We just hit on one of the core issues, I feel, which is the dated structure and the broken down structure of the criminal justice system. This is something we can
dive into.
So just to cap that off, if anyone's a fan of watching 2020 or the HBO documentaries that come on, if you get the time to watch one that's called The Case Against Adnan Syed, that will really
Isn't that the one with the backpack? Yeah.
That's the one for homicide.
Oh.
So that will really showcase the true, weak links in the entire criminal justice system and how it differs even within the U.S. from state to state and city to city, even within the same state, and how it needs to be structured in a much, much more informative way.
You know what's going to solve it?
AI.
Yep.
There you go. Hashtag innovation.
Roll it back.
Robot overlords, here we come.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was just saying is because we have the antiquated methodology or the way we think, traditional way of doing quote government business, if you will. It's probably one of the hardest things to for us to evolve, because the problem with government is it's status quo. There's no urgency. There's no sense of their jobs are permanent, if you will. So the certain individuals will have a certain task.
Yeah.
And
I mean, some of them
stick at it.
30 some odd years as Congress members.
Yeah.
And
So
in those situations, that's the one you really need, because too many things are about the long-term change to do something, right? We always talked about millennials or whatever. They just want to, get $100,000 out of college, want to be CEOs and stuff, and haven't worked hard and gone through the process. We just talk about that across our society in general. We've become very prioritized at instant gratification. And what's the answer? AI is the answer. Cops, regulations, whatever. That's the answer. We should just do that. It's going to be probably a 10 or 15 year, build and changing a whole culture. We always talk about this in corporate land, right? Changing cultures. Same type of thing, right? It's not going to happen in a year, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to have to take a really long time, be consistent with it, and invest in that type of change. But if you do that, it's going to be great. You look at China, right? They've invested in AI and changing their way they're doing things and making their culture. They knuckled down and did it, and now they're coming out on the other side of it a powerhouse.
So one other thing I will say, and tying this back to Jeff Bridges, one of the other things we never take pride in anymore is the actual effort of work. We don't actually take pride in the fact that hey, I built something, even if it's digital. We just don't take pride in. We want instant gratification on the fact that I need 1,000 likes for this thing I built, and then go on to the next thing. It's all so kind of ephemeral almost. And it's not even ephemeral in the sense of whatever. It's instant, because Twitter, Instagram, Facebook post, whatever it is, news post. We're talking about stuff now. But what happened 5 days ago, 10 days ago? Nobody knows. We don't have that. It pops away too quickly.
Yeah.
He just opened up another topic, which I will just touch upon, which is because of the fast-paced world that we live in and so many media fronts that we're looking at, attention spans and short-term memory and memory retention. Because of those daily changing faces, nothing embeds itself in our read-only memory or longer memory.
Yeah. Phone numbers. When you were little, you memorized phone numbers. Nowadays, I don't know phone. It's just they're just little things like that. Addresses, all of that. My parents moved. It's so funny. I looked up their address the other day. They moved 10 years ago to my grandparents' house. It wasn't even far, and I still don't know the address. I went to look up there. I was doing some directions because I'm going up there in a couple of weeks, and and I plugged in the address that I know, and it was my old house. I still can't remember their new one, but by God, the old one is embedded in my brain, and I think it's hurting so much that my kids will never have to know a phone number ever in their life, or memorize addresses, or memorize because it's all right there. You never have to think about it because it's always at the touch of your finger.
Related to that, I saw a meme and it was your calculator is never going to be in your pocket. And I'm yeah. We learned, we were drilled multiplication tables and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is...
Mental math used to be a thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at it. You think about it. Why do you think now you go into a store and if it's holding a sale, it lists every single what the price is given the percentage? Because no one can do basic algebra anymore.
Tips are listed at the end.
I know. It's sad to me.
I mean, it's crazy, which is multiplication. Come on, people. Basic stuff. But you're right.
Man, you guys are bitchy tonight.
I know.
They're kind of kvetching a little bit here, kids.
Hey, we've come up with two.
Well, we did talk about spin, Ross.
But we did talk about naked ladies, so.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that is true. Oh, yeah. That is very true. That is very true. Yeah, no, literally, I'm looking at the list of other things that we could be talking about, and I feel like nothing is going to even catch up to naked ladies on Necker Island.
We took Syya so off topic tonight.
I don't even know where to go with this.
Do we have one more topic we want to cover? Because I know our time is running.
Well, I would like, since we've got some men in the room, Aaron, and it's a video that you had posted
What,
earlier.
usually this is a women-only affair? What?
No. But Aaron, we had our monthly Women in Tech Leadership live podcast event, and it was with Kristen Twining over at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Extraordinary woman, extraordinary person. But she is a millennial, and she is a she, and she has a little kid. Just had a kid, 9 months old child. And, Aaron had to ask the question, which is, how do you balance your career and your home life?
Well, I just had it changed since having the baby. Like, what's it changed?
And we had a guest in the audience, challenge us a little bit. Nothing, it wasn't negative. Let me be very clear, because I know she's going to be listening and freaking out. It's not that at all. It was just simply...
Interesting point,
which is why do we feel the need and compulsion to ask women that question and not men?
Yeah, and it's funny is I don't know if, again, going back to if it's American versus not, because if you look at the Scandinavian countries, they give off as much paternity leave as the women.
Well, I think, but okay, so like my friend Lee made a great point. There's never been a guy who's ever had to freak out. You've never witnessed a guy freak out because he forgot to bring lunchbox or juice boxes to the school lunch. Like, as women, we, right or wrong, because I will be honest with you, JJ and I are very 50-50 in everything that's done. However, I've got everything in my head of what needs who needs to be where it needs to go, whose birthday parties, who's got the party. As women, we kind of pile it all on and we take care of it. And men just have the role that they get to go to work. So my question is, okay, so should we ask a guy like who's had massive success, like who's maybe sold, had a huge exit? Like, should we ask him, like, how'd your marriage survive through that? Do your kids know who you are? Like, should we be more aware of this? Like, did you applaud you did that, but what happened?
Yeah.
Were you screwing your secretary while you were building that? That's fantastic. You know what I mean? But we gloss over that, but the woman's supposed to have it all together. And I think instead of not asking that question, because it's not fair, should we challenge men more? Like, what was your balance?
It's a valid
Absolutely.
quid pro quo. Yeah.
Well, I'll be very straightforward and honest. I've worked for a lot of European companies and lesser American ones. That culture is very different. So paternity leaves, the concept of paternity, and men are actually happy to get that. And personally, so I'm fairly newly married, but initial topics of discussion, even before marriage, both my wife and I talk about these things, about the 50-50 split. Once we do have kids, what are my responsibilities going to be? How I'm going to share in that divide with her. So
right.
It is a cultural and a personal thing. I mean, it doesn't diminish your masculinity by any means possible. In fact, I think it's how you work as a family, how much respect you have for each other, and how much you want to share in the upbringing of your children. I think both parts are equally very important, and it's more of a cultural upbringing, personal / education thing, and the better you understand it, I think society as a whole will evolve to a much better front.
Yeah, because I know I've personally had situations, type A males, big corporate sales leaders, and they were like, my wife went into labor and I wasn't there. I was like, call me when the baby's actually born. Like, I'm going to be here at the office because it's not like I can do anything there. I'm like, you're having a baby.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much type A corporate, but I'm definitely thinking about those things.
Well, and I think to your point, though, it's like women, we even like discount women who kind of step aside. It is I'm telling you, I never dreamed how hard it would be. There are moments when I'm like, okay, I know I can be advancing, but I don't want to wake up and see my kids at 16 years old. And I think, women, we outright struggle with that, but there's got to be men struggling with that too. Like, it breaks my heart when I see sales guys and just traveling all over. Like, we talked to your friend that one time, and the mileage he put on, I can't remember how many miles, but it was like a ridiculous amount of miles he'd put on in a year. And I'm like, you've got a 2-year-old baby at home. Like, you're missing out on so much, but congratulations, you made a lot of money. And it's just, I don't know. Maybe I just feel like instead of poo-pooing it and saying we shouldn't ask it because men don't get asked it, maybe I feel like we should challenge men more. Should we find balance? Should you be home more? Do you feel guilty? Like, I think there should be a guilt question. Like, okay, that's really fantastic. You've climbed up the corporate ranks. You're a CEO. But do your kids hate you? Like, do you really feel you've balanced it all?
Can you even name your kids?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's just an interesting topic.
And I would also put the converse on it. So women who've actually climbed that ladder, have become CEO and are powerhouses, when they got that through that journey, did they experience all of this?
Yeah.
I mean, is it a journey thing? Is it a men versus women thing? How, I mean, is it a requirement to get to that level to not have this in your life?
But it is.
right?
Like, I think nowadays
so
it
it's
is.
a greater
It's one or
culture
the other.
dynamic rather than just a men versus women thing as well. And
Yeah, because if you go home to take the kids, people are going to be like, and I was that person when I was working for Accenture. I remember there was a manager who would leave at 3 because she had to go pick up her kids. I'm like, well, I want kids, so I can leave at 3. This is BS. Like, I was mad watching it go down. I'm like, how the heck is she a manager? And she's leaving every day, and we all witnessed it.
It is hard
and there's
being
that
the
bitterness.
One, it is hard being that one in corporate, though, that doesn't have kids, and you see the people that do have kiddos. Because, I mean, I definitely saw that. I was like, okay, you're always taking off time. Like, I'm here busting my butt, and like,
you can't say I got to go take care of my dog.
Well, exactly.
So I will say it on the flip side, it was really frustrating. And I know, granted, I was entering my career, and I'm not going to say it was on the guy side. Like, I was frustrated with everybody on my side because I was busting my butt 7 days a week, managing hackathons, managing all the rest of the stuff. And it was the guys who were like, oh, no, I got to go take care of family.
Yeah.
Which, to their credit, I mean, in their sense, they were picking up 50-50 of the thing. So that's fine. But it was frustrating that we were trying to drive, and we're like, oh, you young single person can take care of all of this
Bingo.
stuff.
And that frustrates me to no end.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't think that's fair either. Like, I don't think I should work less because I've got a family, but how do we find that balance? How do we not frown upon the people who are taking care of family? And how do we not kill the people who don't have family because they need to, like to your point, how do we find some sort of balance? Because I think the 8-hour day, like, even if you're at an office for 16 hours, it is BS. It is a lie that you are doing 16 hours of productive work. There's no freaking way you are. And we've got this whole thing that if I sit at the office and pound out some work, I look better, and it's a total crap. It's total crap.
From that thought, I will support the fact that, so I don't want to project a company, but I get the flexibility of working at home or working from home. And I think that supports my whole dynamic of that balance from a much better perspective. I mean, I put in the hours. That's fine.
Right.
I'm pretty busy during the day, but because I'm home, it gives me that option to deal with things at a multiple level.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's one of the solutions that we can look at. The other model that we can look at is to start off with is Sweden and Norway. Though those guys seem to be doing really well with that balance.
Yeah.
And when that's the whole thing, though, is like the happier you have your own life self and your self-worth, the more you're inspired to do more for the organization you work for, and also innovate, right? Which is the whole purpose of our podcast, just so we're talking, is does this create an environment to be innovative, to think outside the box, to create the next big thing.
Which is ironic because it's a very Japanese culture mindset, at least from the 80s. That was the books that they would say is happier worker. It was a very.
But isn't the Japanese are like having suicidal rates beyond because they're so.
Oh no, they're crazy.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, it's the 80s. That was the whole thing.
I don't know if we want to.
Well, but what's interesting though about like the work at home, right? So about a decade ago, a bunch of companies started doing that because it made their employees happier, right? Better work-life balance, like the whole 9 yards. But now you've actually seen it start switching back where they're calling people back into corporates. Reason being is because they weren't getting the innovation. You look at like Google and everybody else where they basically have what's called the collision coefficient. They put different companies, like different aspects, divisions up within the company where they're going to go to the same water cooler, the same coffee pot that normally wouldn't talk and are now creating these really cool ideas. And so that's where they're getting the innovation. So by having your people at home, you're not getting that.
But there's a balance to be had within that as well. I mean, I go into the office 2 days a week and I get that collaboration going. I mean, it's 3 days at home and 2 days in the office or vice versa. I mean, either ways, that innovation and collaboration component still exists and it makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying you start living at home, but that balance is something that needs to be struck.
And don't question me if I leave at 2 or don't, I mean, because I don't want to be at home 5 days a week. Yeah, I'll go crazy.
Well, so the one thing that I think we're all having a little bias here is that we all talk about work from home because we all have jobs that have that kind of capability. But there's a probably the vast majority of jobs that we're talking about that will have this type of issue are jobs where you can't work from home because you're going to need to be at a piece of equipment. Right. So I can't operate an instrument at home. I can't operate an assembly line or do something at home. Right. So while this will work for the situations where you might be able to have a computer access that allows you to do that, there's a huge subset of that we'd have to come up with a whole other solution for that has the requirement of being present just to do the job, not because I want you there. It's because you have to actually interact with a piece of equipment.
That has to do with workforce culture and workforce efficiency. So diminishing margin returns, economic concepts, all of that in place. And employee overtime management is very important. And people are starting to look at that. That is part of the experience data. That is part of the employee data. Depending on how much overtime hours you actually put in at work, your productivity declines by 60 to 80%. That is insane. So overtime management, making sure people come in at the right time and also leave at the right time. That will foster balance. So workforce culture for jobs like that and overtime management have to be instilled.
And even overtime is
what the answers for that? AI.
Sorry, the answer to everything. We've solved the world's problems.
Dependent too. It depends. Like to Aaron's point, like is 16 hours, are you going to spend 16 hours making a PowerPoint presesentation, or is it only going to take you an hour and a half? And that's the most valuable thing.
So that's what you have to monitor. Productivity, the KPIs that measure productivity and productivity itself has to be measured in a completely different manner than what it is right now.
Because we're still on a factory standard.
Well, no, and I work contract jobs. This is a swear to God true story. I was working this contract job, and they came to me and they're like, "Okay, you've got 40 hours to do this." I'm like, "Okay, it'll take me like 2." They're like, "You've got 40 hours to do this." I'm like, "All right." And I mean, it literally took, because that's what they were billing, and I couldn't come in and say I'm done in 2. So it literally took me 2 hours, and I did nothing.
Enjoyed
for the
that
other
Mai
30.
Tai in the back patio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's how corporate works. It's like, I don't care. Do it.
I know we had there was a friend of ours that he used to talk about when he would work, depending on how fast he typed and how long he was on the computer, they had a metric. And so if he was doing too much, typing too many, there was like a certain amount of code he could enter in a time frame, and if he triggered it, it would lock him out and say, "You got to take a break. you can't go for another hour." And I was like, that's pretty interesting, right? Because to the point, in 8 hours, he could probably do more than someone else in 8 hours. But they weren't measuring what can this person do in 8 hours. They said, this is the work that needs to be done in 8 hours. If you can do it in less time, then you're not gonna be there.
But that's
sad.
also that's BS, because you're gonna stop somebody's idea flow and you're gonna stop innovation. And why would you want to stop innovation? And that's a problem too.
You're right. It's competing factors, right? Do you let someone work themselves to the bone because they can't? There's several people, a lot of people at this table, that will work too hard because they can.
Not my
We
problem.
don't know what you're talking
And
about.
we'll get that inefficiency, not because it's imposed on them, but because they think, or they're like, I could just do a little more, I can do a little more, I can get a little farther ahead, and you degrade it over time, right? But it's self-imposed, right? Because we're like, because I have the capability to work as long as I want it. It's easy. It's at home. I can take an hour here. I can take it. I go around, have dinner, come back, do a little more. All of a sudden, you just don't get that refresh rate, right? Of stepping away and coming back.
I mean, we're talking about the innovation thing and stemming the idea, but at the same time, are we looking at QC?
Right.
Because once your brain's tired.
And if you want to go high tech on that, I mean, your laptops can start to read your pupil dilation, your cornea, or retina movement.
Yeah, response times.
Exactly. So if you plug that in, then you're actually telling that person, dude, you may have your idea flow working, but trust me, your body and your motion signs are telling you stop. So we're stopping a coronary here. So, again, tech can play various roles.
So Aaron, how do we solve that problem?
AI. AI solves the world. All right.
Well, actually, that would be more like a wearable thing.
Well, okay. Before we
Now
wrap
who's
it up, because you just mentioned it, I just want to go on record and say, because you people, I had a whole slew of topics, and you actually did a really good job kind of covering some of it. But Amazon apparently is pushing out a wearable that basically it reads your emotions.
Yes.
What?
And why are you so happy about that?
So this is like a mood ring?
No, it's making me laugh because what you guys are all talking about is, can you imagine if you're wearing a bracelet and that tells you, it's looking at your biorhythms and whatever and saying, yeah, you're good, you need to stop. Or even better,
You're way too angry. Calm down.
All your verbal data is going into creating that
Step
algorithm right
away
now.
from whatever it is you're doing.
JJ gets a beep on his alarm. Do not go home. Do not go home. Aaron is very angry right now. The automatic car turns it back to the office.
Less marriages are gonna fail. Relationship management.
Yeah, there you
Damn, that's
go.
awesome.
It is not advisable.
Now is a great time. Go home now.
He's got to go back and meet Norm for one more beer.
Exactly.
all right. Well, so guys, this has been so much fun, and with our new addition, Mr. Hashtag.
SAP and AI. I don't know what you'd rather be called tonight. Hashtag AI or
Hashtag. I think you're.
How about my name, Raza? Since I represent myself.
Yeah, that's just
not fun enough. I'm sorry.
Sorry, not good enough.
Guys, diversity and inclusion. Come on.
Actually, looking at this table,
We are pretty diverse.
We got some minorities here
I was
at
gonna say,
the
we
table.
got it all taken care of.
Yeah.
No, we need an African American,
Oh, we do.
There you
Okay, I know exactly.
and we
why.
need a gay person.
Oh,
yeah. That's true.
wait. Maybe.
Well, and a transgender now.
no, I was gonna say, maybe, but Aaron, maybe I might be feeling gender fluid.
I'll
right
be.
now. We're so getting.
I've got the
nailed on that.
unicorn thing outside, so there's that too. So.
Yeah, we were so good up until the last 30 seconds.
Now we're gonna have
So,
that community
guys,
coming after us.
thank you so much for joining us for another round of. By the way, Aaron, we really are bad at this. Our official title is the very Unofficial Innovation Council, and thank you so much. And I think that should wrap us up, Aaron, for yet again another round of the very Unofficial Innovation Council.